Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. Today, we are covering a movie that was requested by Keith. This is the 1988 Pumpkinhead movie. Yeah. So, thank you, Keith, for the request. But before we go into the review, let's grab our cups and talk about tea.
We are both doing Republic of Tea's pumpkin ginger tea.
We wanted to stick with the pumpkin theme.
Yeah. And this has red rooibos, sweet blackberry leaves, cinnamon, ginger, natural flavors, nutmeg, cloves, and allspice.
Yes, and we are doing our merch mugs. So the Please Don't Kill Me mug, and then...
I'm going to kill you at some point mug.
Yes.
Trying to be very careful so I don't accidentally spill it on her arm. We just want to spill the tea on the movie.
Not each other. But thank you to the Republic of Tea for allowing us to continue to do what we love. And for our tea sippers out there, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the review. For the summary, Pumpkinhead follows Ed Harley, who summons a demon to avenge his son's death. As the creature hunts down those responsible, Ed realizes the horrific cost of his revenge. So, for entertainment, we're just starting the recording session, so
bear with us. It's
gonna be a wild ride. So I will say this movie kind of has an interesting, like, small cult following.
Yeah.
And it's 80s horror. It does have, like, that personality and vibe to it for sure. I know for myself, comparing it to all of the movies that we've seen and reviewed before, for me, this movie is a 6.5. I do like, first, going off of the 80s vibe, the very dramatic acting. It's like borderline more like the theatrical type of acting versus like the more like natural acting. But very, very 80s horror. So if you like 80s horror movie, this one will definitely like it, scratch that itch. I really want to be like itch that scratch, but I'm like, that's not right.
No.
But I am kind of curious to see if xenomorphs have inspired the whole like design for Pumpkinhead, because he has quite a few characteristics that remind me of a xenomorph.
Yeah, not just the look, but the sound.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you notice that the main character, Ed Harley, was also Bishop?
I did not. Oh my god!
It was Bishop from Alien.
It was! Oh my god! Yeah.
He came on the screen, I'm like, oh hey, Bishop!
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know he's done other things, but that's like the thing I know him for.
But I will say, the movie was a little bit predictable. Like, they very much leaned hard on being like, oh look, either the dog or the kid's going to get hurt.
Yep.
So yeah. Which, I mean, foreshadowing, stuff like that. So I don't fault the movie for that. It's just like it was a little bit more like predictable. I do like the monster as an idea, but it wasn't that scary. Like, I like the idea of it was kind of cool. And I feel like these like revenge type of movies are often like really interesting, but the execution wasn't like quite there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like it would have been kind of cool if they like held off explaining why Pumpkinhead was after them and kind of left it more as a mystery. And so
it was a logical conclusion anyway.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, in general, I think it was a really good story of like revenge and like repentance type of thing. And then I did think it was really interesting that the dad was the weakness to Pumpkinhead. So it's like whenever like, you know, the dad ended up coming to terms with like what he had done, and it's like absolutely his son being killed that way was like very unjust and not fair, and you know he's justified in his feelings, but he came to the realization that it's like, well, not everyone was, I don't know, it's just, you know, he kind of like,
it's like two wrongs don't make a right.
Right he came to that realization. And so I feel like the way that he went in order to resolve like what happened with, or to resolve like Pumpkinhead, like made the story feel well like rounded and wrapped up. So I did like that. But my biggest complaint with the movie, not so much that it wasn't scary, because we have seen horror movies. Horror movies don't have to be scary. So I don't really find that a fault of the movie. Like, it's very 80s horror and it's enjoyable for that. But at least for me, the characters seemed really bland and forgettable.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember any of their names.
Yeah, and they weren't necessarily that likable either. Even the ones that weren't technically involved in the death, like
there were a couple redeemable characters, but they killed one of the biggest redeemable characters right off the bat. It's
yeah, so that, I feel like that's what kind of makes this movie more forgettable, isn't the fact that the movie's not scary or that it's like some like pumpkin monster. It's really the fact that the characters are more bland and forgettable, because you have like, you know, the stereotypical asshole and just but yeah, that's what I got for entertainment.
So this is the first time I've seen this one. I feel like I've seen another movie, or at least bits and pieces of a different movie, and that one I feel like was better. So watching this one, it didn't quite scratch that itch for me. And I questioned so much of the movie that I couldn't really get fully into the experience. Really. I think the design of Pumpkinhead was really interesting.
Yeah.
And cool. And the story of how he works and all, I think that was really cool. And that he's connected to the one who he's summoned for, basically. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting and a good choice there. That being said, the movie as a whole, at least this one, is rather forgettable and can easily fade into the background for me. So while there's a couple of interesting scenes, it feels like same old, especially for an 80s horror.
Yeah.
So I give this one a 5.5. Like, it's all right, and I wouldn't necessarily say no to it, but there's so many other movies that I would much rather watch that this one's just kind of eh. And I think also part of the issue is I'm comparing it to what I remember from a different movie for Pumpkinhead. So I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't the one I was thinking of. Do
you know if it was a newer movie, or do you remember?
Know. I feel like it was older too, but I don't remember. And I didn't have time. This week was chaos. And I didn't have time to look up how many other Pumpkinhead movies there were and when those came out and all. So I didn't have time to do the research or anything or resolve in my head what I had seen. And it might have been this movie and I just saw bits and pieces and my brain is taking it out of context.
Maybe.
And so when I watch it the full way through, I'm like, wait. No. But it's an okay movie. The main character, Ed Hardy, was good for the most part. I feel like he flipped back to like being on the kid's side a little too soon. Like, it was like after the first death, he was like, oh wait. And I'm like, this is kind of what you asked for. Like, this is the exact reason why you had him summoned.
I mean, I could see like someone being like just seeing red with their emotions and then realizing the consequence of their action.
I can see it, but at the same time, it still felt in the movie context a little too quick. Like, there was no hesitation when they were doing the summoning and all. He had plenty of time. He had to make his way to the cemetery. He had to dig the thing up.
Yeah.
He had to then put it back in his vehicle, like carry it back to his vehicle, go back to the old crone witch lady, then do the summoning. And the entire time he's like, yes, I'm 100% in this.
Yeah.
There is no turning back. I am in this. This is what I am doing. And then he goes and buries his kid. And then the first death happens. And then he's like, oh, wait.
Yeah, no, I definitely...
Like, it just seemed a little fast.
Yeah.
Just a bit. So, I did, however, like that as the movie went on, Pumpkinhead's features became more like Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was morphing, the face was morphing into his.
Yeah.
And all that was really cool. And I did like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
But, and he was becoming a bit more like Pumpkinhead. Like, a bit more demonic throughout the movie. So, I did like that transference. That was really cool.
Yeah.
But, otherwise, like, all of the other characters were so bland. And boring and cookie cutter. And like the story itself is a bit cookie cutter. So I feel like we've already seen 30 others like it. With just slight variances that...
Yeah. Well, and I'm trying to think, you know, obviously this movie came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's like we kind of have to think of how many movies before that fact had...
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I can see, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. That's a movie about revenge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that.
Friday the 13th?
Yeah, Friday the 13th. Yeah. Yeah.
There's several. There's several. So it just, again, it didn't just quite scratch that itch for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite different enough. And it felt really short too.
Yeah.
Everything felt so condensed.
Yeah. But I mean, that was the time though where they were too afraid to like have a movie to be too long, but
I understand it.
Yeah.
I just
No, I definitely and I feel like if they had the time to expand more on the characters, then maybe it would have helped them feel a little less bland. I mean, obviously, like the jerk dude, like
he was irredeemable.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was more like thinking like he's just a very bland character.
He was a bland, irredeemable piece of trash.
Yeah, they're just like, this is the asshole,
yes.
And that's all he is.
That is his defining characteristic, and that's all he's got.
Which, I mean, you know, for plot purposes, he doesn't really need to be anything more. But it's like, so even if they kept him, I'm going to be the stereotypical asshole. If they had made the other characters, like especially the dad, it would have been really interesting if they would have like made him go through more of a progressive growth, maybe like try and like regress a little bit backwards, just because he's like fighting with himself internally. I don't know. It would have been kind of interesting.
Yeah. But that's what I got for entertainment. It was just okay. Sorry, Keith.
Keith knows what he's getting himself into. And to be fair, in our Discord chat, we asked for the chat to recommend movies.
Yes. And these are just our opinions. Everyone's going to have their own opinion on it. This is just mine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we always say, like, it's like we do reviews not to be like, oh, take our opinion at face value.
Yeah.
It's more to continue the conversation. So it's like, if you have a differing opinion or an expansion on,
if there's maybe something I missed and just watched it surface level, and you think that there's something deeper that maybe I missed out on, then by all means, please. Please let me know. But yeah.
So for realism, I give it a 2. I will say where I found it to be more realistic, the kid being impulsive and not really realizing the danger of the bikes, I think is pretty reasonable. Because, I mean, unfortunately, that's what parents are for, because kids don't have the cognitive maturity yet to realize that...
Or impulse control.
Yeah, or impulse control to realize that... they may be young, but there is still, unfortunately, mortal danger that they can face. So I thought that was realistic. I thought the reactions to the kid getting hurt were realistic, and they were also like varied, which I thought was good.
Yeah.
I also could see, the jerk guy preventing them from calling help because he's on probation. I mean, God, that fucking sucks.
Oh yeah, and stuff like that unfortunately happens every day even now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, I thought all of those were like definitely on the realistic side. The father, while, I just mentioned the progression could have been, or the transition could have been a little bit smoother or better. The father just coming to terms and realizing that, unfortunately his revenge isn't going to bring his son back. It's not necessarily going to make him feel better. It's going to involve, innocent people are being involved and potentially hurt. So it's just like, at the end, his emotions are real and they're valid, but him acting on them as he isn't going to get him what he wants.
The way he went about it.
Yes.
Was wrong.
Yes. So yeah. And I did appreciate that, because I was like, why don't you call for help? Why don't you call for help? Like, I was getting frustrated with it because I feel like they weren't trying hard enough, but they were like, at least for the most part, I felt fairly satisfied with their explanations on, like, because whenever they did finally try and call for help, the guy had cut like the phone line. And
he had
stuff.
Ripped it out of the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was satisfied with some of their explanations, because there's so many other movies that are just
and
like
they're out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I could see there not being a hospital for a good ways.
Yeah.
And a doctor getting out to them is probably going to take just as long, if not longer.
Yeah.
To get out there. So.
And plus, they're not familiar with the area, so they don't know where a hospital is. And
well, I'm talking about, like, even when the dad got there and took the kid in his truck.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, what can he. Yeah. Yeah.
What can he do at that point?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, besides that, really the realism got knocked down for like some of the gore and the kills and, the premise of the movie in general. But,
yeah, all of the kills were unrealistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every single one of them.
Yeah. No, they were pretty, this one had, more ridiculous kills.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Which I feel like is par for the course for an 80s horror.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a part of the fun.
Yeah, and it was that gore for gore's sake kind of thing, but not too much.
Yeah, it wasn't too
just,
much.
I don't know. It just felt a little ridiculous, and the blood was just okay. It still felt a little bright, but I know they had to make it really pop on the screen, especially at the time, so I get it.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, this one is just a little more ridiculous on the kills, but, you know, I appreciate that with these types of movies, especially when the characters are more bland. It's like they almost need interesting kills
have
to, like...
yeah, just to bring interest back.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're like, who cares?
Yeah, yeah. So... But yeah.
I also gave it a 2.
Oh.
I'm very proud of you.
Oh, interesting.
Apart from everything that she said, also the kid should not have died from that. Like, just watching it, and I've even backed it up and watched it again. I'm like, did he even actually touch him? Like, he should not have died from that. If anything, it should have just been some scrapes. But movie's got a movie. I get it.
Yeah,
it's kind of the whole premise.
I mean, they
it.
don't really show it, but it's like, I don't know if he got, like, hit in the head or, like...
Did it look like it?
Because it didn't look like they had, like, ran him over.
Yeah.
Because they were, like, going over a
shoved him.
Yeah.
And it didn't, like, it's supposed to be a hit and run kind of thing. And he didn't look like he actually got hit. And I know you don't want to actually hurt the kid, especially in filming and all, but do better. Like, that was the best take that they got for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, that whole scene, I was like, what? And I can see the dickhead being the way he is and all, but at the same time, like, what does he realistically think is going to happen? He locked his friends up in a pantry or closet, and he made it so they couldn't call for help. Like, did he just expect them to be like, after a couple of hours, oh no, you're right, we're cool, we won't go to the police or anything?
Right. It's like they can eventually do it. What's he gonna do? Unless if he kills them all.
Seriously. And then he's got an even bigger mess and more questions. Like, more people are going to ask what happened to his friends that went with him. And he's the only survivor and all. No, like, what realistically does he think is going to happen?
Yeah.
By doing what he's doing.
He wasn't thinking, he was just panicking.
Which, again, unfortunately is realistic and happens all the time. But still, it's just...
Yeah.
When he goes to summon the demon with the old crone witch lady, also, why does it have to be an old crone type lady?
I know!
So when he goes there initially, there is a rat on the mantle and an owl in the place. And the rat's not dead with an owl. I'm not finding that realistic at all, just from the food chain. And then he brings the thing to the old crone lady, and again, there's like no hesitation. There's a mild part when he's getting the body of Pumpkinhead where he's disgusted, but it's not like hesitation. It's like, ew, gross, I have to touch this thing kind of disgust. So, again, it doesn't quite make sense in the span of the movie why he flips so quick. And when he does have to give blood to summon, the blood is coming from the knife, not the hand.
Like, I see what you did there. Got one of those special effect knives.
Just a bit. Or like they had something behind the knife, like by the hilt that runs down. Yeah. But it's not, either way, it's not coming from his hand, it's coming from the knife. Like, that was the best take you got for that, because, no. And then again, every single one of the deaths afterwards is just absolutely ridiculous. Even if I set aside the fact that Pumpkinhead is a thing and that he's quote unquote a demon? Question mark? They didn't even seem in the movie to know what to call him exactly. So we set him aside and allowed for that because movies got a movie.
Well, and
that's
plus,
the whole premise
like,
of the movie.
There weren't any, like, Pumpkinhead experts, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, like, they just are going off of what they've heard.
Yes, but setting him aside, again, the kills that he does is beyond ridiculous. And make no sense. So, that's what I got for realism. It's not a realistic movie. I was questioning everything. My biggest question was, how did the kid die from that? And I know I was also kind of questioning, like, why he didn't just take the kid with him and, like, lock the place. Because it's not like he had people lining up. They're in the middle of nowhere. He didn't seem to really expect anyone else. And the kids had already paid. And they were just kind of goofing off over there. So why not just, like, lock the place? Especially if he was only going to be gone for a few minutes. Take the kid and the dog with him. When the dog was obviously a problem. Because he had already been a problem before then. And then come back. Or make it so that the dog couldn't run out. Like, still lock the place. Leave the kid there, fine. I have stuff against it, but just because I'm overprotective like that, I guess.
Well, as a country, it's like...
Yeah, but lock the place so the dog can't get out and cause a problem, and the kid stays there. Because kid. Or take him with you. But whatever.
Yep.
It's fine. Not my monkeys, not my circus. It's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine.
But yeah, it's like, I feel like, you know, whenever Halloween comes around, I do, like, Pumpkinhead comes up. Mm-hmm. But besides that, I don't really hear this movie talked about a lot.
He's not as widely spread as, like, Michael Myers.
Oh, yeah.
Or Chucky. Or Freddy Krueger. Jason.
Yeah. He's like a more minor Halloween mascot, I guess you could call it.
I feel like I see more I forget what it's called, but the one from Trick or Treat.
Oh.
I see that thing around
Semine
more.
Or whatever. I forgot.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's like, you know, it is very much an 80s horror movie, so if you love yourself some 80s horror, you will definitely enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for, like, well, and it's a
coherent story.
Classic, so. But if you're looking for, like, a very strong, solid horror movie, you're not gonna get that from this one. But I don't know. But
again, didn't hate it. It was just kind of meh.
Yeah. But 80s horror, like, it's a classic.
Okay, but we've seen other 80s horror that we really loved.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yep.
So.
But thank you for joining us today, and thank you again, Keith, for the request. And let us know what you thought of the movie. If you'd like to recommend a movie, game, or tea, you can leave us a comment or join our Discord. And if you'd like to keep up to date with our content, you can find our link tree listed below.
If you'd like to support us monetarily, we have a Teespring and PayPal, or we have our affiliate link with Republic of Tea available. It does not affect the price of the tea, it just allows us to continue to do what we love. And you can find all of the sites mentioned linked below, but until the next time, guys, stay safe and stay spoopy.
Bye!